Penelope finally comes face to face with her husband, but does not recognize him. Or does she? In any case, someone else definitely does. Hello and welcome back. My name is Zachary May, and today we're reading the Great Books of Western Civilization, continuing with the Odyssey. This is book 19 from the Robert Fagles translation, and as always, we'll begin with a brief plot summary before diving into analysis and commentary. Odysseus is nearly alone in the hall. He orders his son to help stow the suitors' weapons away at this time, since they've now gone. Telemachus asks his nurse, Eurycleia, to keep the maidservants out of the hall as they work. After this, Telemachus goes to bed, and Odysseus prepares to test each of the maidservants as well as his wife. Penelope and her maids come down from their chambers. Melantho mocks the beggar once again, and tries to throw him out of the palace. Penelope tells her off before inviting the beggar to sit with her and ask about her long-lost husband Odysseus. She begins by sharing her story before asking the beggar to tell his own. Where is he from, and how did he come to Ithaca? The beggar tells, by and large, the same tale he's told everyone else, with a few alterations, claiming to have hosted Odysseus while the king was on his way to Troy. Penelope, however, tests his story by asking him what Odysseus was wearing when he came. The beggar answers correctly, also naming the herald and companions that he would have traveled with at that time. Penelope then believes him, though renews her despair that she will never see him coming home again. The beggar reassures her, though. Odysseus actually is on his way. He then details many of his misadventures the king experienced on his way home, which the beggar supposedly heard from a reliable source before coming to Ithaca himself. Odysseus, in addition, delayed his return for two reasons. Number one, to win back the treasure he had lost in order to improve his household's lot upon arrival, and also to discern whether Zeus wills him to return openly or in secret. Penelope doesn't believe him and simply says that she wishes it were so. Despite her doubts, though, she offers to host her guest lavishly by having his feet washed, getting him new clothes, and giving him a warm bed here in the palace. She's just ordering her women to see to it when the beggar stops her. It's no longer his taste to sleep in a bed, he says. Furthermore, he would only be okay with having his feet washed if it's done by someone who's borne as much pain as he has. Penelope assents to this and asks that some furs be thrown down for the beggar to sleep on in the hall. Eurycleia, the old nurse who cared for both Telemachus and Odysseus as infants, will be the one to wash the beggar's feet. Eurycleia comments before beginning on how similar the beggar and Odysseus look to each other, before doing what she was told. She then begins to wash his feet, mostly out of Penelope's view. As she does so, she comes across a scar on his thigh, a scar that Odysseus had gotten in a boar hunt when he was very young. She recognizes it immediately, and tries to wave to signal Penelope, but Penelope happens to be looking the other way. Odysseus quickly silences her with threats, hinting that to reveal him now would only get him killed. Eurycleia agrees to be silent, and offers to inform the king about which of the servants are disloyal and which ones are loyal. Odysseus, however, insists on conducting the investigation himself. The beggar returns to Penelope, who asks him one more question. She is not sure whether to continue to wait for Odysseus or not. When the courting began, Telemachus was a boy, and urged her to wait. But now, as a man, he is concerned for his future, which the suitors consume each passing day. Penelope then goes on to share a dream that she had in which a great eagle descended upon her flock of geese, killing them all before coming before her and announcing itself to be Odysseus, who is in reality on his way home. She asks the beggar to interpret the dream for her. The beggar responds by interpreting it to be exactly what it appears to be predicting. Penelope has her doubts, but shares her intent to make a contest for the suitors tomorrow. She will set up a line of 12 axes and then bring out Odysseus's bow. The man who can string it with ease and then shoot an arrow through all 12 axes is the man she will marry. The beggar tells her that this is a great idea. They each then go to their place to sleep. "High time, child," the loving nurse replied. "If only you'd bother to tend your whole house and safeguard all your treasures. Tell me, who's to fetch and carry the torch for you? You won't let out the maids who'd light your way." "Our friend here will," Telemachus answered coolly. "I won't put up with a man who shirks his work, not if he takes his ration from my stores, even if he's miles away from home." Savagery from Eurycleia. Now again, Telemachus is playing his role. He doesn't turn on her and say, "I'm trying!" He lets it go, and pretends to be a grudging host who will insist on making the beggar work for him while he's here. Is that actually bad hosting behavior? Well, it hasn't happened elsewhere in the Odyssey, but bear in mind that most hosts we see here in this epic are very rich. They have slaves and servants that take care of all the servile labor, and thus guests aren't needed to help anyway. Making them do it would just be to make a point. Now again, even though the suitors are eating him out of house and home, Telemachus does fall into this class of rich nobles, so we can assume that to Eurycleia in this moment, he appears as if he's being a bad host. The beggar tells Penelope the first piece of news that she's actually believed about her husband in a very long time. Notice that Odysseus knows what questions his wife will ask to prove his tale, and he's prepared to answer, but not too well. He leaves room for doubt. For example, after being asked about the clothing the king wore, he answers and qualifies his statement. And this too, I've no idea if Odysseus wore these things at home or a comrade gave him them as he boarded ship. They're both extremely clever, but Odysseus happens to know who he's dealing with, whereas she does not. She appears to realize it subconsciously, though, with what we might call today a Freudian slip. Up with you now, my good old Eurycleia. Come and wash your master's feet, she nearly says, before catching herself and saying, equal in years. She then appears to make up an explanation for why she was about to say what she almost said. However, she never puts two and two together. Tons of Homeric scholars have theories about why Penelope has chosen this moment to potentially give in to the suitors, and why she remains entrenched in despairing and not recognizing her husband, despite everyone telling her that he's here, he's coming, he's close. Knox details what all of those theories are, and mine incorporates a bit of each one, and I won't lie, it has its own problems. I think that she doesn't recognize him for the same reason that Telemachus insists on remaining in his grief. She doesn't want to get her hopes up or let herself believe that Odysseus is coming home. And yet, she's not quite ready to move on from him either. This is visible to us every time her husband's return is spoken of, including in this chapter where she shares her dream. The beggar says, "Dear woman, twist it however you like. Your dream can only mean one thing. Odysseus told you himself. He'll make it come to pass. Destruction is clear for each and every suitor." Ah, my friend, dreams are hard to unravel. Not all we glimpse in them will come to pass. I can't believe my strange dream, much as my son and I would love to have it so. In any case, though, she still unwittingly sets up the occasion for the suitor's demise, with a task that Odysseus seems certain only he could win. Now, in good faith, I think that she does this for the exact reasons that she mentions, like concern for her son's life and future, but she's without a doubt, I think, under Athena's influence as well. After all, the goddess is the one who got the ball rolling, gave her the desire to appear before her suitors and try to get them into bringing her gifts and proving themselves to her. Something which only Athena would know serves Odysseus' purpose. One more brief note on these two of a sentimental nature. Remember when Penelope asks Eumaeus about the beggar in Book 17, he says that this man could charm her to her depths. It's a cute detail, seeing how he's already charmed her in the past, though in a much deeper way than Eumaeus means. And we see more of that here in Book 19. If only, my friend, you were willing to sit beside me in the house, indulging me in the comfort of your presence, sleep would never drift across my eyes. Think of your own spouses if you have them. You married them for a reason, I presume. And I presume, too, that you take joy and comfort in each other's presence. We see this with Penelope and Odysseus, too. Even though she does not recognize him, they still have that same chemistry together. Right, so let's talk about Eurycleia. She recognizes Odysseus not once, but twice. First by saying, "Oh, goodness, you look so much like him." But then afterwards, once she's washing his feet, she notices the scar, and that gives her all that she needs to know. Besides Penelope, she arguably has the most intimate knowledge of Odysseus, having basically raised him since he was born. And so, of course, she would recognize him. Odysseus didn't intend this, though, so he has to quickly silence her. In fact, he threatens to kill her. Why is that? Well, notice what he says before that. His words are very similar to Telemachus's, when he first arrived in the palace and then refused to speak to Penelope, as if he's saying, "I'm in danger of death. If you were to reveal me, you would be exposing me to that danger, and so I could only conclude that you wished me harm." Gotta love her nonchalant response, though. Of course, obviously you know I wouldn't. By the way, do you want to know who's disloyal? Odysseus insists on testing each servant himself, though. Why is that? I think it's just his pleasure to go around like a chameleon in disguise and examine each person one at a time, even when he does have a choice in the matter. I had thought that Knox had also written something on this topic, something approximating that by examining each person in disguise and revealing himself afterwards, Odysseus gets the chance to meet the person in the present, as they currently are, and putting them into awareness of him as he presently is, rather than try to pick up with where that relationship was 20 years ago. However, I can't find where I thought he said it. In any case, as I'd already quoted from Knox, the second half of the Odyssey is a drama of identity disguised and revealed, a series of artful variations on the recognition scene. This encounter with Eurycleia is definitely one of them, and one of the more memorable ones in the epic. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. If this is your first time reading, please comment below and tell me who you think will recognize Odysseus next, and how. See you next time.